Hi, this is Jennie Byers, and I'm back for part two on Awaken Nation.
A huge shift is taking place on planet Earth. People seem to be waking up. Tired of the way things used to be, they are creating something brand new and changing the world we live in. My name is Brad Zales, and I get to sit down with the next generation of idea makers, the disruptors, and the game changers. Everyday people, just like you and me, from all over, who are doing amazing things. Welcome to Awakened Nation.
Jennie, welcome back. Ladies and gentlemen, if you caught part one, we did a deep dive into Jennie's new book, Spirit Reunions. And Jennie, welcome back to the show, by the way.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Sorry to hog the mic real quick, but I wanted to set up the context for those of you who didn't listen to part one. I suggest you go back and listen to part one. We do a deep dive into Jennie's origins of being awake spiritually, being connected to spirit, having one of her guides teach her how to connect, talk to the dead, basically, and also interact with the spirit world. But also, how her family was connected to this. And I just want to go into this, Jennie. What we talked about is how you developed your talent, your powers, your abilities. And you started to realize that people were kind of, for lack of a better word, disconnected from spirit, from the creator, from God, from source, the Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call it. But when did you start noticing this?
Well, I noticed when I got disconnected myself in my 20s, and I feel like it's the main issue for everybody here. What everybody's struggling with and all the suffering boils down to we've gotten immersed in a disconnect, and we're all really trying to find our way back to that connection to God or source. So when I was doing the channeling for people where I was able to connect for them because my mother got me connected, I just found that it was difficult for me to get people connected. You can't really talk someone through that. You can't really, explain it in a way that people are going to go, oh, okay, let me do that. Even though people were desperate for it. And I was really trying for many years to say, okay, here's how I do it. Here's what my mom taught me. And then at some point, my mom said, okay, are you ready? We're just going to get them connected to us. And this is how we're going to do it. And it shifted everything for me because I went from doing it for them to me saying, okay, now it's time for you to do it for yourself. And I know how to help you do that.
Wow. It's kind of like the self-help guru, Jim Rohn used to say, I can't do your push-ups for you. And I think whether you're a psychologist or a doctor, medical doctor, or you're doing this type of work that you're doing, it's funny how people just want to rely on you because you have some sort of special gift that the rest of us could never develop. And the reality is if we work at it, just like any other skill, if you work at it, you will get better at it. Do you find that to be true? I mean, not everybody has, they lean into different modalities that they're really good at. I've found anyways.
Yeah, we all do it differently, and that's part of it. We're meant to do it differently. And for me, what got me connected was the love of my mother. So I say in the book, it was like I was clawing my way back to her because it was that love that I couldn't live without. I mean, she was the most beautiful, unconditional love in my life. She was my best friend. And so when she left her physical body, I felt like I couldn't really live without her. And so it was that love that forced me to find a way to reach her, not understanding that it had everything to do with my own vibrational state of being. And it had to do with my ability to be in my own heart, connect to that love, because through trauma, we have disconnected from our heart.
Yeah.
So the biggest challenge that we have in getting into the field is getting our heart open so we can feel our own heart again and we can get into the space of love where they are. So it's really about doing your healing work, clearing your traumas, and at the same time understanding how to allow them back in our life through the love. So it's a very simple process, but yet we've come so far from it that it does take a minute to understand it and get back to it.
It's interesting that you say this, because I've noticed there's a lot of healing taking place and people actively wanting to heal their traumas. I've seen an increase in people wanting to do things like ayahuasca and peyote. And you'd be surprised who you see at these fire circles. I've seen CEOs, really famous celebrities, people who are trying to clear whatever has, traumatized them as a child, or war, or whatever they've been through. And I feel like we are in a time right now where this is speeding up or accelerating. Have you seen that at all?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, my mom said that we're in a time right now where they're able to reach us more than ever, because we're moving up in vibration and we are clearing these traumas. The more you move your body up into a higher vibration, the easier it is to let go of these lower density emotional states of being. Plant medicine, I wanted to talk about that because plant medicine was my initiation into the field. And I explain it in the book that plant medicine offers you a vibration that is more in alignment with source. It's nature. It comes from source, and it's a surrogate for us. So I personally felt that it was plant medicine that was my initial surrogate back into the field. And what I will always recommend that people look into plant medicine and see if it calls you. I do think you are called. I think it's a sacred thing. I don't tell people plant medicine, but I do feel that it is a powerful pathway in if that medicine is calling you. But what I've also noticed is that doing the journeys that I do, I am able to help facilitate a surrogate experience into the field through my vibration, because I already am connected there, similar to medicine. So I'm able to be a surrogate for you, and spirit is able to be a surrogate, no different than plant medicine. And I also feel it's a little bit of a more gentler way of getting there. Yet at the same time, there are people who can't get there this way. I did have one just this week where we just couldn't get her there. And that is when I will say you might want to explore plant medicine, because plant medicine will get you there most likely, or it will begin the purge process that you need to purge in order for you to get your vibration up.
It's interesting. You brought something up that reminded me of the Far East, when in Hinduism, or even in Buddhism or Taoism, there's a belief that if you just hang out with somebody who has a high vibration, they call them gurus or saints or whatever, or priests, high priests at the temples. If you just hang out with somebody of a high vibration, you too will start to vibrate higher. And I feel like with some of this work that is the case. People are attracted to you or to me simply because our vibration exudes this sort of light, this vibration, this higher consciousness. And I'm not saying higher or lower. I'm just saying it seems to be vibrating a little finer.
Mm-hmm. So what I have found through quantum biofeedback and working with quantum biofeedback technology at my center is that our auras tend to match each other. So the people that I'm associating with or hanging out with for long periods of time, my aura and their aura will look exactly alike. And this was really interesting because it was like my aura, for the most part, I felt was kind of going into their space and matching theirs. Like mine was the one that was looking very, very different. And I have a tendency as an empath to go and want everybody to feel comfortable, and I will lower my vibration and I will adapt to you, if you're not able to come into mine. So I was noticing me doing this. It was in my aura, and my aura was looking a little mucky for a minute. And I thought, okay, now I got to get centered and I need to keep my aura, and let you have yours. You know, it's a natural thing that we do it unconsciously.
Yeah. I remember a buddy of mine was reading a book that said, "Stop being a nice guy." And it just, what you we're just talking about reminds me of that, simply because I spent a lot of my lifetime trying to fit in, trying to be the nice guy, trying to, lower my vibration and get people to like me. And a lot of us do this in business. We do this because we want something, we want to please people. It's basically a trauma response to trying to get love. And I think New York cured me of that, because I'm sort of like, I don't really care. It's like, now I'm not perfect with it, but, I catch myself more now than I did in the past. And anybody who's listening right now to this podcast, I want you to understand, we all have done it at some point in our life, to try and get a spouse, to try and win somebody over, to try and get a job, to please the boss, to make somebody happy. And it's almost like we're trying to seek validation. So we lower our vibration to make the other person happy, when in reality, we should be maintaining our vibration and have other people step up. And that's hard to do, Jennie. Did you catch yourself in the warning signs of it and just stay centered, or how did it happen that you started to learn this?
Yeah, so for me, it was important for me to understand that when I'm working with people to help them heal and help them come up in vibration, it's like I don't want them to feel so like such a discrepancy between us that they're not comfortable. So part of it is I want you to feel very comfortable with me, and I want you to not feel intimidated by the vibration. I don't mind moving my vibration a little bit more in alignment with you. Spirit does the same thing. When I would begin to channel with them, they would move their vibration a little bit down, but they also required me to come up. They wouldn't baby me. They didn't, do it all for me. So there's this balance of where people are and assisting them the way Spirit assisted me. And hey, we're going to come your way a little bit, but you're also going to be required to come our way a little bit. Yeah. So what I had to do is I had to get some pretty clear guidance on this when I work with people, so that I understand what's the appropriate place for me to be. And this comes from my connection to my mom.
A lot of us, we have trouble believing. Well, I'm not saying I have trouble believing this, but some people, when they listen to my podcast, there's certain esoteric subjects we go into that they're probably sitting there scratching their head. But like most people, I used to look at some of these things and go, that's out there, that's whatever. And slowly, consciously, I started to awaken and started to realize, oh, yeah, that's totally true. That's totally possible. And that's what happened. So, folks, if you're listening with a sort of an ear and you're kind of going, I don't know about this, just keep an open mind, because the great sages, the healers, from Christ to Buddha to you name it, they were spiritually aligned in higher vibration. And that's why people, stopped and listened to Jesus for 5.5 hours at the Sermon on the Mount. It's like, I'm not going anywhere. They're feeding us. This guy's great. I'm listening to him. He's great. I'm just going to stay, and there's a reason why. That wisdom, that knowledge that's coming from the higher worlds. Some people are doorways for it. They're portals for it. And Jennie is one of the portals. So let's go a little deeper.
Jesus a minute. Let me
absolutely
on Jesus, because I don't know if I've already mentioned, sometimes I talk so much, I can't remember what I've said. So one of the things I want to point out is that William Henry did talk about the ancient art and show us ancient art. William Henry, co-producer of Ancient Aliens. I'll just, elaborate a little more. I love him. Love his conferences. I highly recommend them. I've learned so much. And a lot of the things that William is presenting from his research is stuff that I've heard directly and I understand from my mom. So, that's always a beautiful thing when you meet somebody who is, surfing the same consciousness wave and getting the same information. So he shows the ancient art where Mary Magdalene and Jesus were using the psilocybin mushroom to assist them into the field. So they were accessing the source field through plant medicine. Interesting that this is illegal. Another interesting thing, because I'm convinced that the artificial reality is held up by humanity being outside of the field. And I feel the biggest threat is us becoming one with the source field again, where we are no longer able to be controlled, where they, we're programming ourselves from the field, from the God consciousness, and we're no longer being drug along in fear programs. This is the biggest threat. And every single thing that is done in the artificial control system is to keep us from this state of being.
It's almost like we're inside a video game and we didn't know we're in a video game. Mm-hmm. And science right now is actually pointing out that we are in a matrix. We are in a simulation.
Yeah.
And the reason that they were able to do this is in the quantum physics, they started to measure. First, they were able to detect the atom. Okay. And they said the atom is the smallest particle in the world. Then it went a few years later as the microscopes got better and the electron microscopes could deal with actually high vibrations. They said, "Oh, we were wrong. It's it's electrons and protons." Okay, that was the next one. And then a few years later, they go, "Oh, we were wrong. Quarks are the smallest particle in the universe." And then this went on for a while. And then all of a sudden, they went, "Oh, wait a minute, we were wrong again. It's photons that are the smallest particles of everything. Everything is made up of photons." Well, if you don't know what a photon is light and data. That's all it is. So our left brain, we've been raised to believe this is solid matter. And when in reality, we are in an illusion. And the quantum physicists, they found that, once you walk away from Newtonian physics, which works perfectly if you're building a building, but once you get to the quantum level, all of a sudden they started to measure vibration, things like this. And one day they went to lunch while they were watching these atoms vibrate or whatever. And when they came back, they realized they had left the microscope on. They went, "Oh, crap, we have an hour and a half worth of data. Let's go back and look at it." Well, they found out when they left the room, the atoms stopped vibrating. So that means the observer affects the outcomes of the vibration of the atoms around them. And so our thoughts, if we are, and Jennie, I want you to jump in here and talk about this. If our reality says that this is impossible, then it shall be impossible. But if our reality in our brain says this is possible, it will become possible. So you see the dichotomy that we're facing right now. So let's talk a little bit about that, because that's a state of consciousness to realize that maybe our opinions, our programming, all this other stuff are not our reality.
So what I've learned from being in two different realities or timelines, there's the artificial and then there's the organic. And this is the way that Spirit and my mom described this to me. When you bounce around between the organic timeline and the artificial timeline, when you're accessing the source field, and then you're coming back into the artificial timeline and reality, you see the difference. And we have to integrate the difference. We have to be able to experience it. It cannot be a concept for us. We actually have to be able to move our focus fully into the source field again. I feel like the messages of Jesus were all about this and being in the world and not of it. So when you're able to get out of the artificial reality and experience what's real again, it's very easy to see what the truth is versus the non-truths, or the fear versus the love. You get the big picture, and you're downloading all of the truth into your body, your physical vessel. I call the amygdala part of the brain. You're downloading the program into the artificial part of us, because we all have an artificial part. We have a God brain and we have an artificial brain. Right. And the artificial brain is needed for us to operate in a physical reality. So when you're downloading the new program, you're expanding your consciousness. Also, everything is created from the source field. In the artificial reality, it's dead energy. We actually are required to be accessing source vibration. Creative energy is source. It's God. God is the creative energy. So if you want to create your reality and be empowered to create your reality, you have to be accessing source creative energy. The artificial reality actually is it's a genius setup because it has found a way to harness source creative energy through those of us that are unconscious of our ability to, as creators here. So there's a lot going on, but I will just, to answer your question, what I've learned is getting into the source field and getting connected to the God energy is now going to reprogram us to be able to create reality completely differently, see it totally differently. And the artificial reality is no longer controlling what we see, feel, and know and limiting us. So we're able to get into the bigger thing.
It's interesting because you say this. I noticed a huge shift over the last, I'd say 2 to 3 years, where my manifestation has started to spiral up. Before I was struggling with, creation, and now things are happening in a very fluid way. If I want it, I just, go through my own steps to get it. But it reminds me, when we're talking about an artificial reality right now, some of you may be rolling your eyes as you're listening to this, you're driving on the highway or something. I want to put it in a way that we can all kind of absorb this information. And here's one of the best ways. If you look at the pharmaceutical industry, I've spoken to the CEOs at some of the very top pharmaceutical companies in the world. And one of them told me they get their ideas from nature. They tell all their scientists, when you're on vacation, if you hear the local, witch doctor or shaman says, we use this herb for whatever, I want you to collect a sample, mail it back to us, and we put it in our computers and reverse engineer it to figure out what it does in the GI tract and the nervous system and all this other stuff. This is how they discover drugs. Okay. The drugs that they put out in the market. They create a synthetic version of it. Well, this synthetic version does not have any enzymatic activity in it. It doesn't have any of the life force in it, because a lot of this life force is coming from sunlight. And all of a sudden, you're looking at a product like right now. When I was growing up, we didn't take vitamin D, okay? And we sure as hell didn't take vitamin D3. We went out in the sun. When I was a kid, if you had problems with your hair or your cuticles, your fingernails, they told you to eat Jell-O, because Jell-O was originally made from bones, boiling bones from animals. And so it had all the nutrients in it that you needed for your cuticles. Well, now you can't do that because it's made of sugar. So our reality has slowly been hijacked. And it's ironic, but the word pharmacy or pharmaceuticals comes from I believe it's the Greek word pharmakia, which means illusion, enchanted illusion. So a lot of our science today is actually based on trying to create a copyrighted product that is actually found in nature. And so how many of our business sectors, ladies and gentlemen, are created on a lie and a myth to get you to live in a false reality of taking a product for money, to work hard in order to afford a drug to, help you live with a disease rather than cure that disease. And that's the world we're living in right now. And that world is being dissolved slowly. And so Jennie is here to help break that illusion. Am I right?
Yes.
How'd you like that explanation? That was a winding, meandering
Beautiful.
road, but thanks. But let's get back into this. So as you're helping people, what have you noticed with people that let's start with you explaining what you actually do. And then we'll talk a little bit about where you've seen that aha moment from people where they go, oh my God, I'm awake now. But what happened? You started to just take them up to the higher planes. Am I right?
Yeah. And what drove this is I was having a lot of people come to me and they were missing their loved ones so much. I mean, there's one of my favorite was a woman whose husband had committed suicide. And when she initially had called me, I couldn't even understand the voicemail because she was hysterical. And, it was heartbreaking for me. These are the cases of people that are coming to me are very intense for me. So I know the journey that I took with my mom. I know how heart-wrenching it was for her and I to be apart. I lived that myself, and we have to live these things ourselves. And whatever we're called back to understand and heal through spirit, we are here to offer to others. That's just the natural order of things. So my journey back to my mom, it was beautiful in teaching me how to assist others in getting back to their loved ones. Mm-hmm. I had only been doing it in a more limited way. And so I didn't really understand that I could do it in a bigger way. So I was very excited when my mom said, look, just work with us and we'll get them connected. You listen to me and we'll talk you through. And that's what happened. And she was able to spend an hour with her husband. He was able to come and get her through me, assisting her in doing the things through her mind, the way my mom taught me how to get my mind in a space where they can reach you. And what I mean by that is not meditation, because what I have found is that meditation does not really facilitate connection into the source field. I feel that a lot of meditation has been hijacked like everything else and distorted. Me sitting there for hours to quiet my mind has never been very helpful for me. Yeah. I've done journeys for people who do so much meditation. And when they do the journeys, they say, you mean I could have been doing this all along? Yeah. And instead, I've been sitting for hours trying to quiet my mind. And, what happens when you master that? Good for you. Yeah. I personally cannot do that. So I'm impressed. But I feel like it's the most natural state for us to be in. The reason that we're traumatized by death is because it's a lie. Anything that produces trauma in our mind and our body is a result of lies. We come from truth. We are truth-based beings. And if something is causing you strife, you need to get to the bottom of what in you is not in alignment with the truth. When you move into the source field, you come back into alignment with the truth, and you let go of all these parts of you that are not in alignment with the truth because they can't be there anymore. Mm. Truth and lies cannot be in the same space at the same time. So you're actually purifying your physical vessel, realigning it with higher truth, getting connected to your loved ones again, and setting yourself free in every way.
For those of you who are really, really left brain and what Jennie's talking about might, get you interested in this subject, there's a book out by David Wilcock, and it's been out for a few years. It's called The Source Field Investigations, the Hidden Science and Lost Civilizations Behind the 2012 Prophecies. And, this is what Jennie's working on right now, and what she's doing is actually backed by science. Because we're now able to measure tertiary fields coming from the human body. So our brain gives off a certain amount of tertiary field that just means spinning. And so our brain wave comes out to, let's say, here. But they found when you activate the heart center, the right brain goes like 50, it takes up your neighborhood. Let's put it that way. So we're talking about getting in touch really with the heart center, which is, in the West, we have just started to talk about gut instinct. You know what I mean? So that this connection between the mind and the gut. Well, in ancient Egypt, they felt the heart was so important as a center that they would take out all the organs and they put the heart in a special jar and they'd throw away the brain. That was the funny part. They would keep the liver, the kidneys, everything. The heart was put in like a golden jar and the brain was thrown away. That I find interesting. So there's like three areas where we are communicating from a higher vibration: gut, heart, and head. But that's not us. Those are just indicators. Those are like antenna to help us read and feel. Would you say that's true, or am I out there again?
Yeah, no, I love it. I think that there's so much we can learn from the ancients because there's a lot of lost knowledge. And I think it's also fascinating that you bring up David Wilcock and the 2012 that you just brought up, because just this morning, I didn't know about that until this morning, Brad. And the synchronicities are so off of the charts,
Yeah.
but a woman came to me this morning to ask me if I had heard of it and to tell me that she would like to introduce my son, who's a homeschooler, to that. And there's a program that David Wilcock did, and she wondered if I would be okay with my son taking that program. And so interesting.
I think you just got confirmation.
Yes, I did.
I read that book, and by the way, it's like 3 inches thick. It was really David's book that launched him into creating Gaia and everything else, which is that education platform for alternative knowledge. That book really made me sit back and go, oh, okay, all that esoteric stuff that we've been made fun of through our life, or mainstream calls silly or conspiracy theory or whatever. They were going over and listening to David Wilcock. Basically went over to Russia and places like this, where the scientists in places like Japan, Russia, all around the world, they were open to some experiments that made you question what is really going on. And so one of the experiments that David talked about was where they were in Japan, they were playing, I believe, like Mozart to plants. And they hooked up electrodes to these plants. And they found after a while, when they didn't put on Mozart or whatever, the electrodes from the plants were actually mimic the sounds. They were humming the songs as a group. We couldn't hear it, but the electrodes were picking it up. They were humming Mozart basically to each other in the morning. And then one day something shocking happened. One of the guys came in to say good morning, and he wanted to talk to the scientists. Well, the plants in the room and the grass and the trees, everything they had hooked up to electrodes, they basically, for lack of a better word, were screaming, like going crazy over this guy every time he entered the room. And this went on for a couple of weeks. I'm like, well, what the hell's going on here? Well, this was the guy who cut the grass and trimmed the trees. And so they saw him as this, the guy who hurts them. So everything's alive around us, and they've proven this. This is also, the water experiments are part of the IONS, which is the Institute of Noetic Sciences. Noetic Sciences was started by one of our astronauts after he came down. He was one of our Apollo astronauts after he returned to Earth. He said, I want to start something big. So he started ION, which is the Institute of Noetic Science. And noetics is basically, do our thoughts create reality? And, everything is progressing at a super fast rate right now. We have biobeds, just like we have in Star Trek. Those are becoming a reality now. We have plasma field technologies. I've sat in a plasma field, and basically I went to sleep in the deepest sleep I've ever had in my life. And I was only in there in the field for 15 minutes. So many of the things that we're talking about on this show, including people like Jennie, is people who come to Earth with this natural ability that they develop, they hone, and they serve humanity by actually helping you get back up, get back home. Because this truly is, you said it best, Jennie, if it's not sustainable, if it is not eternal, if it isn't whatever, it's not reality. And the truth is, everything on Earth right now is temporary. Everything, our lives, our homes, our beautiful landscape, it's all temporary because we come from someplace higher. Am I correct on that?
Yeah. And what's fascinating is when people go up into the fifth dimension, the heaven realm, they are reporting all the same things. They see the same things. They're experiencing the same things. I mean, it's so amazing because these are people that have never heard anything about it. I purposely don't tell them anything because I don't want to skew anything that they experience. So it needs to be natural and raw for them. And one of the common things that people experience is that this is another physical reality. It's not etheric. It's actually, you can physically touch each other. You have nature there. And, in the Bible, it talks about heaven is the same as earth, as above, so below. And it really is a higher vibrational version of earth. It's the same. There's homes. They have homes. One lady, she gets up there and her husband comes to get her, and he takes her to this big chapel. And she says, it's this beautiful chapel, and there's artwork all over the walls. And she says, he's holding my hand and he's walking me around to see the artwork. Now, I didn't know her husband and I don't know her. And I said, what is the significance of the artwork? She says, well, he was an artist. And she said, he's so excited to show me the artwork in heaven. And this is when we get back to this and we understand what is real again, because we've forgotten, we realize that this reality, this fifth dimensional reality, we are actually merging with it. And there's a lot to understand about that, because there's a lot of ideas about the ascension, and some people believe that they're ascending out of here. I have friends that are like, we're out of here. We're not going to be here. So far that hasn't happened. I haven't had friends that ever really ascended yet, but, for years have been feeling they were going to. But I feel like getting our mind around what ascension really is. And for me, by doing these journeys, I understand that ascension is individual for everybody. And that has to do with your vibrational state of being. Your vibrational state of being is what is going to determine your experience in every new moment.
Yeah. You just reminded me of something. And folks, if you are having trouble with the idea of vibration, let me ask you this question. How many of you out there have, for a long period of time, attracted the wrong person in your life? Okay, this is just a rudimentary example. And then as you shift and you change and you decide, I don't want any more of those relationships, you start to attract different people into your life. People who actually care about you and give a damn. That's a shift in vibration. And a shift in vibration is a shift in consciousness. And consciousness has nothing to do with your mind. It's basically, consciousness is a particular type of reality that's independent of the mind. So it's just, one of the easiest ways to see a shift in consciousness is when people change their diet. When they decide, oh, I can't eat like that anymore. And they decide, I want to eat healthy. And instead of it being a mind thing, they're just suddenly now attracted to fresh salmon and, vegetables, or maybe they switch to veganism or whatever. That's a shift in consciousness and vibration. And we're also going to talk a little bit about this, but in other religious practices, they talk about the planes of heaven. Now, they talk about it in Christianity, but they don't go into it deep. But there are planes that you rise up into as you vibrate higher. So you don't rise up technically. What you do is, as your pulse changes, you start to go into a new reality. And those other vibrations, they just don't affect you anymore. And I'll give you a good example. And that is in the 2 Corinthians chapter 12, Paul talks about he knew a man who was taken up into the third heaven, and he didn't know if he was of the body or out of the body. So they're talking about that in the Bible. And there's different levels of heaven where different people of different vibrational fields and consciousness go to. So when Jennie takes you on a journey to the fifth and the seventh planes, this is what she's talking about. And heaven in the Bible really wasn't this place like we talk about now. It's a place of sovereignty where soul comes from, is really what it is. So I just wanted to lay some of the groundwork, Jennie, because we're about to go probably a little deeper now. Yeah. I want to talk about how you work. You take people up. So let's talk about how, when you work with somebody, what are you actually doing?
Yeah. So because my mom has worked with me for years from the other side, from the fifth dimension, seventh, on up. And actually the ninth is another place that I particularly work with her. but not everyone is accessing those realms yet, but we all will. It's not something special that I do. It's just a fact. It's just what's been brought to my awareness. It's what I've learned, and where I've been attuned, and there's attunements involved and frequency. So what she's done is she's helped me by saying to me, look, I'm not coming into your reality, you're coming into mine. And that threw me off because I spent 5 years trying to reach her, yet I was trying to reach her through the third dimensional physical reality or the artificial reality where she doesn't exist. And so it was this huge awakening for me to realize that she's not there. That's the reason I wasn't able to access her. She's not in the artificial reality. I can't find her through the artificial brain amygdala, where I was kind of stuck in looping through trauma. It was like the artificial program. She's not there. Spirit is not there. And this is where most of us have gotten locked into a space within ourselves where they are not, where your loved ones are not. They're not in that state of being. So in order for me to access her, I had to clear trauma. And I had to feel my own heart again. I had to feel love again. And I always tell people what happened when I finally shed a lot of layers of trauma from my heart with her assistance. I was able to feel my heart, and I felt like my best friend was back, and I didn't even know she was gone, which was really bizarre, because I didn't even realize or have awareness that I had done this. So, there's these different levels of awareness that are required for us to come back into alignment with ourselves, with our hearts, with source. So that was the basic level for me. And what she did then is she began to talk to me about these processes, walk me through the processes so that I could then turn around and explain these processes to others. And I could walk them through the same way she walked me through. This is all very, very important. The reason it's so important is that I am not here to do things for people that they cannot do for themselves. Yeah. I am here only to do for you what Spirit was so graciously doing for me and paying it forward and saying, if we're all going to come out of this, if we're all going to create a better world, if we're all going to have a better experience, then we're all going to do this together. Right. And everyone can, and there's nothing special about what I've done. It's our birthright. It's in the Bible. It is, we were born with the God spark and the ability to access this at any time. We've just forgotten. So I'm just blessed enough to have been gifted the ability to get back into the field and help others do the same. So when I'm working with people to help them, the process is through the imagination. Because it's through the imagination that we are able to access higher states of consciousness. I don't know if you're familiar with Neville Goddard.
No. Tell me, who is it?
Okay. So I wasn't aware of Neville Goddard either until a few years ago when one of my clients came to me and he sat with me and he went through the process with me and he said, you're repeating what Neville Goddard has said in all of his books. He had followed him for a long time, and he was a medium, and he was teaching mediumship, but he was from the 1930s, and he had worked with some other people, but interesting. He and I are both Pisces. I mean, that's another synchronicity. But Pisces are known to be very imaginative, and I think, well, that makes sense because we do access the imagination very easily. And anyway, apparently Neville and I were saying a lot of the same things, using the same processes, and he was a very, very clear channel medium. So, he was trying to teach people how to get back into the imaginative mind. It is through the imaginative mind, which is the God mind, that you can access the source field. It's a very simple way. I love that the Bible or Jesus says, you come to the Father, or you come to heaven as a child. The imagination is very childlike in us. It does bring us back into the simplicity of who we really are when you can just get into an imaginative state. We also know that it is where we create reality from. Yeah. We know from The Secret. We know from Joe Dispenza. He's saying a lot of these things. We're collectively coming back into this remembering and accessing our superpowers, which is imagination. It's a superpower, in my opinion. So, what I do is I help you access your imaginative mind. and I help you calm your amygdala brain, which is always in a state of fight or flight, always protecting you from what it doesn't understand. I explain it's a computer. It's like, an artificial part of you that only operates from past experience. It cannot come into the now moment with you. It is a part of the linear timeline. And we actually have to get around that. It's super strong. It's very overpowering. So you've got to get around it. Think of a computer program that you have that has a virus, and you have to understand how to get rid of the virus and how to work around it. So you have to be in charge of your computer, and learning how to do that is a skill. And we all are coming back to having this knowledge that I think has been hidden for a long time. But I know how to do that. I know how to sit in the field. And let me give you an example, because when you sit in the field, you become a surrogate for others to come into the field. My mom said this to me when she first got through to me. She said, I want you to understand that it's not about what you say. It's not about what you believe. It's your state of being that makes the difference when you're trying to assist others. And so, helping me understand that my state of being centered in the source field acts as a surrogate for others to join the field, because it calls forth the parts of them that already exist in the field. We all have parts of us that exist in the field at all times. We're dual. We're in duality. We have both parts of us. Where's your focus? Are you focused in the artificial brain? Are you focused in the God brain? Turn your focus and you can access a different reality. It was for me, understanding this and being able to do it on command was tricky, but I'm able to talk people through it, and people trust me and they allow me to do it, and they feel safe and they move into their imagination. And the next thing you know, their imagination starts to do a different thing. And all of a sudden, they're not having to use their imagination anymore. They're just being shown things. And I'm able to see when that shift happens. And once that happens, I know they're in, and I can sit back and relax. And I know that spirit's got them, their loved ones have them. And I can allow them to have that experience. If they glitch out, which we all do, I glitch out, we all glitch out, your mind will kick in. That's a good thing to practice. And I can help you get right back in. So this is just a natural part of the learning process. And of course, people practice on their own. Once they leave me, they go home and practice. And we have varying results with that. There are people that come back time and time again and do it with me over and over until they get the hang of it. And then I have people that are off and running. And it just depends on where you're at.
It's interesting that you talk about all this. It really is, we're in a moment in time where I truly believe our God, part of us, which is the creative imagination, it is a gift from God. Every single thing on earth that's either been invented, built, or created from scratch started with imagination. Everything. And I think we discredit it quite a bit in this world. People work with me as a designer and a brand creator, and I guess I make it look easy because they're like, wow, that's cool. And then we move on. They're not sitting there going, how in the heck did you think of that? It's tapping into the higher source that God has given me. And it's a muscle I use every day for my entire life. How much more creative can I get? And so when Jennie's talking about this creative part of us, this truly is the divine part of us. And I think we poo-poo it a lot. We don't give it as much value as we should. We get all excited when a raccoon opens a door, in these stupid videos online. We'll watch a TikTok video of a dog, opening a door, or a cat doing something amazing. And they're being super creative, climbing a wall, let's say. And we go, wow, but we don't look at it that way in human beings. We have incredible creative ways of getting in and out of danger. I mean, I look at my own life and how many times I've gotten out of situations or gotten in and then pulled out of a situation. And it really is our creative part of ourselves that helps us to thrive in this world.
Yeah. My mom says when everything that's created in the artificial reality is created in source first, and it steps down from source, it steps down from the heaven realm, and it's just like a carbon copy here. And that's how everything is created. It's created from heaven.
It reminds me of when a new technology comes along or a new science or whatever. It always starts out with good intentions, and then it vibrationally just starts to go down. Tesla was a good example. Nikola Tesla, his electric engine didn't need a battery. It grabbed electricity from the air. So while everybody else was charging their batteries, his stuff would just run. And that there's actually an ad, you can find it, where he basically says, buy a Tesla. It's not you won't need to charge it. Or, even pharmaceutical companies, they all started out as herb companies and naturopathic companies. They used cannabis. Most of our cash crop in America was cannabis, not tobacco, folks. That's the big lie. But everything starts from this high vibrational source. Tesla invented the earthquake machine to release tension along the San Andreas Fault because he knew at some point California would go through, something. And if they didn't release that tension along the San Andreas Fault line, people would die. So he invented this earthquake machine that actually worked. And that has disappeared from the zeitgeist of the human story. So what we're talking about here is, a lot of times they'll find an amazing invention. Or you'll see this online. You've seen this, Jenny, where somebody, invents a car that runs on water, and then that person disappears. This is what happens. Yeah. So sorry to digress.
The artificial reality is so highly controlled, and those that control it really believe they own it. I mean, there's so many rabbit holes, and my mom says, there's so many endless rabbit holes in the artificial reality. It's Pandora's box. You'll never get to the bottom of the rabbit hole.
It's true.
At this point, I think we're ready for something bigger, and we're ready for higher truth, and that only can come from source. There's no truth in the artificial reality. It's the opposite of truth. It's inverted, upside down.
Yeah.
And when you get into the source field, it flips everything right side up. And so all of a sudden you get to see what it looks like from the right side up when you've been looking at the upside down for so long. People just cry and they laugh, and it's like incredible. It's absolutely incredible when I get to witness people moving into that energy and going, are you kidding me? Like, this is real. This is amazing.
Yeah. That's incredible. Yeah. They come back. I mean, you did a session with me and I come back and I'm laughing. And what happens is it's not only cathartic, it's a huge healing. Because now they're connected with their family or their loved one that they miss. And your vibration shifts immensely when you're not alone, when you're connected to source. Am I right on that?
Yeah. And, the next level of this is we were never meant to be separated from source ever. We were meant to create this reality while in tandem with spirit. We were meant to stay connected all along. And so wherever this went haywire, we're coming back to it. And what we're going to experience coming back to it is we're going to be bringing this knowledge in. I've got, this lady, she's a doctor, and the sessions that she has with me are so incredible. She goes up, she goes into temples, she's learning about frequency and vibration, and she's bringing that information here, using it with her patients. And we're being upgraded from the field. So we realize we have an artificial reality that's tried to dumb us down, keep us down. They program us to dumb down our amygdala when we could be majorly high level of intelligence. Even if it's artificial, we have that capacity. It's being held down. And when we get into the field, those limitations go away, and we're now in charge of our own learning through spirit. And we're going to be shifting this entire reality. I mean, it's the biggest game changer of all.
It is. How do people get a hold of you, Jenny? They reach out to Spirit Reunions. Is that correct?
Yeah. You can go to my website, spiritreunionsanctuary.com.
Yeah. I recommend you go to her sanctuary. It is really beautiful. I've been there, and she's added a few more cabins since I've been there. So it's being there it was an amazing experience because everybody who came in that weekend, they were just pure love and light. And if you're connected to your cell phone every day and you're watching TV all the time, this is a great place to heal up, to get away from it all, to get back to that natural flow of life and vibration. And yeah, I highly recommend that everybody go there. Also pick up her book of the same name, Spirit Reunions. Let's get this party started. I love the book, by the way. Did you enjoy writing it?
Yeah, I loved writing it. Yeah.
Yeah. I love
there
the
are a
cover.
lot of things. I've already started a second book, Brad, and I want to say that there's so many things that are happening so rapidly for all of us. The shifts of consciousness are coming fast and furious, and opening these portals, these light portals, and keeping the energy light, dedicating portals to light. There's portals everywhere to source. Dedicating them to light is hugely important. And I've experienced this traveling, people that are aware of this and doing these things. And, where I journey people is in a portal of light, like you're talking about with my center, how you can feel that. The veil is thin. We protect these portals. We protect these openings. And everyone can do this in their own space, activate these portals to source and keep them protected, keep them pure. It's key for all of us, this awareness.
Yeah, pick up her book. I mean, she has some great chapters. I've read some of them. It's just profound. One of them is micromanaging the collective matrix reality, the fifth dimensional Bible, our multidimensional timelines. We are multidimensional beings, which she points out in the book. Quantum superposition. Let there be light. I love each chapter, especially when you're talking about your family and how you guys trained in this when you were younger, which we covered in part 1 of this interview. But I want everybody to reach out to Jennie. And Jennie, thank you so much for coming back and clearing up some more of what is really going on in planet Earth right now. Is there anything you want to talk about before we close out this part 2 that you feel is incredibly important to tell everybody?
I think the final thing I would say is that the most important reason why we need to get tethered back into the source field is to realize what our purpose is here. We all we've come in with a goal in mind and a purpose to assist with the ascension of humanity. That's what we're here for. We're here to help with that. And understanding in what way we're being guided to do that, what our gifts are, that is the most important thing you get when you get into the field, and it kind of launches you on your path. I think a lot of people are in the in-between right now. What am I supposed to do? I have all this knowledge. I have this fire in me. I have all these gifts. I have no idea what to do with it. This is the thing that I focus on with you, is assisting you in getting that information and knowing exactly how to go forward. This is really, really important for all of us.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, if you feel you have a mission here on Earth and you don't know what that mission is, I suggest you reach out to Jennie, because she will help you gain clarity on that. A lot of people, they stand up and they go, well, I'm going to start a podcast, or I'm going to create a sanctuary, or I'm going to do summits and get-togethers and blah, blah, blah. Well, how do you fine tune that so it's completely aligned with spirit? So it's aligned with your highest, greatest good, your mission here on Earth. Otherwise, if you think you're just born, you have a job, and you die, you might want to revisit that belief. That's all I'm saying. Because, I think we're meant for more, because we are soul inside this meat, suit that we wear. We are a being of light. So there's that. So thank you so much for being on Awakened Nation. Sorry you had to run off yesterday. Yeah, I miss hanging out with you, because we've always had a lot of fun. And it's surprising what songs we know, because we were at Jennie's sanctuary, and she started singing. I forget what it was, and I started singing it too. And she's like, "You know that song?" I was like, "Heck yeah!" That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Hey, this is meant to be fun. Above all things, we are meant to have fun. Spirit says it all the time. Have fun. Yeah.
Humor, Humor. Humor. Hugh is an ancient name for God, but the reality is humor raises our vibration. It also is an act of healing, because how many times have you had something ridiculous happen to you? You cry about it. Years later, you're laughing because Spirit actually has one hell of a sense of humor, pitting you with somebody that you would never talk to today. And then the silliest thing happens, the dumbest things happen, and you're just like laughing and going, oh, really? This is what you've done to wake me up, So I just find it hysterical. So, Hey, everybody. Yeah. Reach out to Jennie. We'll have everything in the show notes. And Jennie, thank you so much. I feel divinely blessed that you're on the show. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good. All right, everybody. Tune in again next week for another extraordinary guest here on Awakened Nation. Thanks, Jennie. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for being a big part of the Awakened Nation movement. This is how you can help me and our extraordinary guests. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please share it out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And let's grow this movement by word of mouth. Our success will be because of you. Thank you, and see you next week.